Hello QJ, and thank you
Hello,
for
Pete.
joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
So what is the most interesting or most important thing that you are working on?
I would say definitely Zuzalu.city is one of the most important projects that I'm working on. Maybe one of the two that I keep very close to my heart. Maybe I can introduce a little bit what it does. So Zuzalu.city came from the project that Vitalik started as a pop-up village experiment in Zuzalu last year in Montenegro. And people were, the community actually living there that were self-organizing programs. So they were permissionlessly scheduling what they want to do together, what they want to share. It's less of a conference vibe in the sense of people don't come just to speak to the audience, but really trying to share and have long sessions of discussions and come back and forward. In the meantime, we also experimented with some zero-knowledge proof projects that would not have such a ready market to test with. And then people enjoyed it, using it to do polling, and basically the anonymous voting was making it much easier for people to voice their opinions without revealing too much of their identity. And lots of other technical projects were tested there in that ground. So essentially what we want Zuzalu.city to become is, sounds like a big vision, but we are actually pretty close to it already, with a vision of a collaborative operation system. So you have your own operation system in Android or Apple phone, but when the communities get together, you need to collaborate. And there are tools that are in, let's say, Web 2 world that are run in the centralized servers. You don't necessarily own your data. Your community organizers don't have ways to moderate your social feeds. What are the appropriate things to say in our community? What are the values? It's not up to you. There is a protocol on the existing social platforms where you get, I would say, censored for what is considered not appropriate there. However, it's not necessarily the case with, let's say, the general Web3 communities, because we are exploring new grounds, and then we have ideas that are not so mainstream. It is essential that communities have their own tools to innovate on their own towards the direction that they want to go to together collectively, and such tools that allow you to be having privacy as a choice, to collaborate with people that you like to share community space or share your future and time with, are difficult to find. When they do exist, they are separated in different silos, in different islands. So Zuzalu.city would become such a thing where communities could tap into the beautiful Web3 ecosystem with a streamlined way to just use those Legos to build what your communities need. While we also have the builders from Web3 communities that are leveraging this platform to become more known and used by communities that actually care about the values they care about. And so I would say for communities, it's a toolkit, collaborative toolkit. For software builders that are more aligned with the cypherpunk spirits, they're using it as a distribution channel to reach out to more the accurate users. And it also goes beyond it, because when communities do grow, you have people who are from different backgrounds that come into the space, come to the community to collaborate together, and they are also exposed to this kind of tools to kind of be exposed to the ideas and get to experiment with it, and then also adopt it and then expand even further to become such alternatives that the software world actually does not have at the moment to offer such freedom.
Okay, but what kind of tools or features does it offer, or what do you plan on?
So right now we have, to start with, it is kind of upholding the Zuzalu spirit, where every member of the community in this sense is quite equal to schedule whatever they want, and then which you can say you can use traditional platforms to do such things. You can do Excel sheets, you can do Loom.mar, but you don't necessarily own the data, you don't necessarily have the privacy choice. So even though it's a simple feature, let's say, it's still, I wouldn't say groundbreaking, but it still didn't exist before these 7 months of work trying to make decentralized, encrypted data available for communities to try out. So I'm actually very, very happy that Zuitzerland is one of the first projects, communities that came on board to support the testing of the product. And in the metaphor of city or urban planning, you have, let's say, the city bootstrapping from the very beginning. So we have tools such as letting you sell tickets with NFT, while the users or the attendants will not have to reveal their identity when they purchase. So it can be completely quality-based when the organizers are selecting or curate which members to join. And then when you join the platform, or when you use the platform, it's a zero-knowledge proof that can be generated from your phone. So it's a client-side ZK proof that you can verify your qualification as opposed to your full identity or passport when you enter an event. And this verification can be used in a lot of other places, such as communication, when you sign into a social feed of your community and start to tweet, forum, and lottery, for example, when people are having fun on the site and say, let's donate for this party, but 50% would go to actually the first winner with a true a random number generation. So this is a bit more what is already currently in the pipeline, the socials, the forums, zero knowledge verification that is completely decentralized. More to it would be kind of the city expansion. You will need more place to have more meaningful discourses, applications to try out different things, bounties if you want something done. If you have an idea that you want to pitch to the organizer and get funded, not only by your community, by the general community that are interested in building such tools that can be used in the future. Hamburger tax advertisement would be one of the very interesting things we'd like to try out. For example, if we're having an event where all people who are into the crypto ideas, at least, then Tether or any exchange can actually buy the ad. And every day they're charged with a certain percentage. But after, it could be a cycle of a day, another exchange can come in and say, well, we're willing to pay more. However, with a smart contract implemented advertisement, what you can do is not only having this open, transparent competition of pricing, but also the entire community benefit from it. This can go to the community's treasury, and then you can decide whether or not you want to vote or decide how to give the funding to support different infrastructure and activities in the community. And these ads can be placed in any place during an event or in your community space or on social. That can be very like Lego-like and more in a WordPress kind of format. And these are all like small economic activities that can happen within the community that can turn out to be a very big thing. And if you start to generate content that other communities like to read, it also becomes a place that a traditional Web2 website could also benefit financially from. And so those are the things like kind of in the expansion with the consideration of funding. We would also like automatic sponsorship purchasing so that there's always competition and logos get bigger and smaller or in different pages, or if people stop paying for the subscription, then their sponsorship logos are down. Stuff like this would facilitate organizers to fundraise really grassroots versus having to have a very strong sponsor and then have them potentially dictate a lot of the program, which is something some communities would like to avoid. But that is not to say if strong network that is willing to back certain events and then it's value aligned, it's a bad thing. But if communities want to start really like from ground level, then there's always ways for them to find the means to start bootstrap a community first. So the financial aspect is a big aspect that we would like to facilitate with Web3 tools. Beyond that, there's all the things that human beings in a society would need to associate. So you can look at how legal engineering track and all these projects are working on making contract more like smart contract executable, or so there are services that you can pay within each other if the community get big enough. And so this is more on the expansion side. And you also want to be discovered. So what kind of data can be shared to other communities so that they also participate a little bit, during which you get a better feel which kind of members you want to acquire to also come into your community. Underneath which there is a very big infrastructure that we really need to facilitate. I emphasized it earlier, which is data ownership. people come in and out of a community. It's really bad when you leave a community, all your data are erased by someone else. And you actually made contributions, you voiced your opinions. Maybe it's not welcomed here, but you should be allowed to take that away with you. The badges that you earned on the infrastructure blockchain on Ethereum won't be removed. You can always say that I did this here and then I'm going to another community. If they appreciate what I have done, for example, artistic creative work here, that you're taping, and very likely, even if you don't continue with a particular event or a particular community, this is your badge, and then you could always go around, and this is confirmed by the previous community you worked with. Also, your socials, the words you say may be censored. They should be immutable to your own data, and then you can take them with you in other places when other communities encourage or like those kind of contents. So that's the more I would say a hidden layer to the project's difficulty, but it's essential because this is what Web2 is not giving to individual users and empowering users' own ownership to things. And going more forward, of course, the interoperability is what we care about, because then you get to tap into the ecosystem of all the new projects and existing projects that are being built. And this allows Zuzalu.city to be not only, how do I put it, the traditional way of becoming a big tech would be monopoly. You're creating a war, whether it would be because you have the chips, you have the silicon, or because you already have the network effect. And then people don't want to lose it because you're like, my grandma is using WhatsApp and she doesn't know how to use Signal or anything else. So I have to use WhatsApp. But Zuzalu.city and many other projects can become such a thing, just like a wallet. You're interacting with the same infrastructure. And you of course have your own economy, but you're not monopolizing. Like, you have to come to me and then I dictate what's going on. What is more important is that we become such a, I would say, leading effort to make the idea of interoperability happen. We're just one of the interfaces that potentially face more the Web3 communities. But there are people who are doing pop-up cities for example, the elderly. They might be with good user experience, or the user experience catered to them. They can also use the same tools, and they are the interface that are more designed for them, and different events and different durations. This goes to also all other projects in the space as well. There's huge potential, and then we're already working together with many other projects that want to allow users to take their own data and then use all the tools that we're trying to build together. And this, I think, is also something that has been theoretically agreed with within the community, interoperability. At the same time, it's not done very well in the sense of it's still easier, or it's still a shortcut for your brain to go to the way of saying you have to come to me and then I dictate how the rules should be because I need to survive and then my investors need to see the progress. But Zuzalu.city is not owned by me per se or anybody. And the reason why it's a brand now is because so many people in the community contributed to it, and it became more and more picked up as like an inspiration or movement. So it actually has to, at least in the end, belong to the people who contribute to it. So structure-wise, I cannot make it saying that I just create a wall and say, come, if you go through me, then you have to pay me. But at the same time, it is very challenging because coordination among even 30 people here, while we are in the beautiful campsite, is still quite challenging. If you want to collaborate with multiple projects in the space, they have their own milestones and their own priorities and their investors and their communities. It is hard, but we see more and more people, projects being very determined to do their project right and stop worrying about adoption or trying to fundraise huge amounts of money and commit to paying back the investors because they have to. Because now they see another way of doing it, which is with Zuzalu.city and many other interfaces, they get to actually be used and then funded and supported by many communities already. So we are collaborating in such a way that is loose and everybody has their individual sovereignty in a way, their own character, but they are in a friendly competition with different tools. You can do many different identity passes. in the end, it depends on which one is accepted better by certain different communities. Maybe, for example, Zuzalu, Georgia was super keen on privacy, so they don't want your data, and they don't want anyone else that you don't authorize to have your data. That means Zuzalu.city shouldn't have the data either. And then, of course, on the front end, it's not so obvious that it was a hard effort to make it happen. All of this coordination came from my organization, which is called Ethereum Community Fund. So that's a project that started in 2018, and it was about coordinating resources to fund and finance projects and help them become the necessary tools or the bridge towards the mass adoption. And we see Zuzalu.city, we're still working on other things and incubating and researching. But Zuzalu.city now, because Vitalik pulled this off like last year, it was way before I thought the idea of community innovation or new societies would be a thing, and it just kind of expedited our progress. But at the same time, we also received so much community support, so that it really made me feel like it's possible to make it happen. That you can have competition, but it's not those malicious, I have to kill you type. But let's all find the communities, and it's still such a small thing for Web3 technologies to be adopted. Why don't we just go all together as a troop until we have to fight? Maybe we hope it's not the case, but until that point, it actually has to happen. But the size of the economy in Web3 is so small that it's not even a Fortune 500 company. So there's really no point for sensibly for projects not to collaborate to make it happen. And I also see more serious projects are into building, less into marketing. But this is not marketing, this is not conference. You're actually in touch with your users. They are also builders from different aspects, not necessarily engineering. And you're really finding your own community. And this is one of my personal reasons to be more passionate about Zuzalu, because I have been sick of going to conferences. And Zuzalu really refreshed my experience with interacting with the people in the community, and I kind of find the community versus just looking at the word community being used as a euphemism for marketing for tokens.
Right. Yeah. And so you said Zuzalu.city is a platform, but also a protocol. So like you plan on building more and more features into this platform, but you also said you want to make it as interoperable as possible, so other people can build other pieces that are compatible.
Yes, that is the case. It's actually already happening, because when I wouldn't say we are a protocol in the sense of a technical protocol or network or messaging protocol, but more like what kind of projects get to be more promoted to be used or to be prioritized as a protocol. Our production is more at user experience, or integrating all these tools and say, well, you are not giving data to the users, so maybe work on it better and then you come back, because that's the only way for interoperability to happen. So the interoperability is actually not ensured by us. It's like we're just one of the wallets, and you are interacting with the blockchains through us, but we don't decide whether Ethereum is interoperable. However, if the other wallets are also using the same infrastructure, then we are kind of interoperable. Like Gnosis as a multi-sig wallet is interoperable with other decentralized applications, because it's just one interface of letting multiple people sign their signature first before they interact with other applications that exist on Ethereum. And in this case, we are also kind of just one of the interfaces. What we want are more tools that are seriously decentralized applications. We've seen a lot of tools, and people are like, there are so many projects in the world. Only by really implementing and making them, with integration, would you understand that some of them are not really there yet, let's put it this way. They would still have a lot of the data in their server, so they still need to create APIs for us to interact with them. Then it's a black box. And then, of course, it's not categorically saying that we will say no to these projects, because different communities are at different stage and do have different preferences, and even the jurisdictions have different compliance levels. But we want to be the force to incubate or encourage more of the pure Web3 projects, while cater to other communities that even if of all the tools that use that we could integrate, there's only, 5% of Web3 tools. It's still helping them getting a good sense of its user experience and its utility. But resource-wise, of course, we won't be able to put more efforts into integration when interoperability is just so easy if you're truly adept. Definitely we want to do that so that we can be much more agile and not to have to become a huge team that have to dictate all the things.
Right.
Versus the reality we want to keep, which is with mostly the coordinators, and we need designers to help us identify where is a breakpoint for average user that is new to Web3, so that it really becomes a way to promote. And I hope that as a good example, then this becomes something that will encourage other projects to also go the same way. However, the real world situation is really that the ready tools that can integrate or have the resources to do it are very few, or maybe we're just not known enough for people to know that this is the right track to go.
Right. Hopefully soon.
Hopefully soon, yes.
But,
it is getting bigger actually, like we start with 1 or 2 and then now there are 5 and 10 projects in the pipeline that want to integrate, so we need to now expedite the standard part so that they can do it themselves, and then you can imagine it to be like an app store that projects, when they enlist themselves, they just become the apps, and then the communities can just choose the tools. So more and more of the tracks may need to be started by us, but when the seeding is done, more projects are like, oh, we can do that as well, and then get adoption by the villagers. Yeah.
It's actually super similar to something that we wanted to build, which is called the Meta OS, but that's another topic.
That's a off-camera topic, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. For sure there's interoperability then.
But we started in 2019, so it was a bit, like even now it's still too early for some of the projects to get into it.
That's very true. That's very true. But maybe now with all the pop-up cities, it's also with more cyberpunk people.
I wanted to ask you, for people who don't know Zuzalu itself, so in your view, what is Zuzalu and why is it important?
That's a very good question. I heard about it from Vitalik directly, and then he said, we're doing an experiment, and then why the number is 200 people, why 2 months, and everything that he explained in a lot of his interviews. For me, I was just coming out of 3 years of COVID in China, and I was not connected with lots of people in China and outside of China for a very long time, in even the work field, or even outside of the work field. And I was like, okay, then let's take a look and go to see, right? Nobody knew what it was going to be. And nobody knew what it was really. We knew that Vitalik is a very influential, very fun, interesting, and intelligent person, would not just pull this for no reason, and then let's just go and see. And then, of course, a lot of projects that are relevant to what he already knew that would be experimented there were there as well. For me, the experience was that I was really able, I would say it's more about people personally, because I have a full-time job at ECF, and then there's a lot of programs that are very interesting every week. It's what they call the cross-pollination from people who want to make positive impacts from all these cutting-edge technologies. So everyone is intellectually intrigued to also participate. So there's a program to see, and then there are people in the end that I feel I could really be friends with. It sounds like I've had a hard time finding friends, but it is really the case, because people who you can feel safely sharing your true opinions, and then you want them to see your moments or tweets, like the things that you really have in mind, are not a huge group of people. And then also because I just moved to Europe, and it was a moment when I didn't need to have not just acquaintances or like simple friends in different activities, but people who do care about what I care about. And Zuzalu had a high concentration of these kind of people that are from different backgrounds, and that inspired me, enlightened me, or gave me ideas I never thought would exist, or made me agree to things that I didn't think that I would agree with. It was really a very, very high return experience that is super positive. And because of these people existing, you are even more motivated to do what you want to do. And our idea with ECF, which is before Zuzalu.city's part, so there is another part that I'm not going into details with, was so validating. Everybody's like, you guys should really build it and then launch it as soon as possible to help the communities. And then friendships, that there are friendships with even Chinese people. I'm a Chinese, that I didn't find, at least when I was living in China for my lifetime. I was able to find them in Montenegro, in Zuzalu. So that's also an actual point. even though they don't live in the same city with me, but there is this connection. Now we go to different zoo villages together, at least once a year or a few times a year. So you get to reconnect and then reshare what you have experienced and learned and studied and then built all together. I feel like I found my community. And I'm not trying to say the entire Zuzalu community on a meta level is by itself all identifying each other as community, but I was able to find communities within what Vitalik put together. So I'm very, very grateful, and also to the organizers that were trying to make everybody stay safe and then still try to experiment different things. And in my presentation with Zuzalu.city, this is also what I was saying, which is it cannot be. I had such positive experience that I didn't expect, and I have lived some share of life and had a lot of experience in crypto as well, and felt this is something that cannot just stay with us, with like a group of people. If Vitalik does it again, it will still be a limited size. It cannot be, I mean, let's just make the whole world Zuzalu. It's impossible. So you're still confined with your physical resources. However, these are things other people can also do. And if it can be scaled in a software model, when all the values and tools are given to community to test their own version of being, like reinforcing each other, empowering each other in a different way, that's a beautiful thing to see. In the last week of the Zuzalu, many more people, so it was 2 months, so in the last week people all heard about it, and then a lot of people came by. There are young people who are like just didn't know what Bitcoin was, and then they came and they're like, because my friend who works at a pizza restaurant said that there are crazy smart people here, they're talking about things I don't know. Actually, the security guards were saying like they're talking about living forever. It's crazy because there's a longevity group of people there as well. So they were telling their friends there is this group that like we have no idea. They look like they're not. They look like they're homeless, and like, we're not the most fashionable crowd in the tech world, and but they don't seem to mind money so much when they. No, that's not really the point, but it just feels like they're really different people, and then you have to know if you're trying to find out more about the world, like what are they trying to do. So many young people actually flew in, and they are like attending a few sessions on with the program, and joined some activities. Mostly parties, but there's also like parkouring, and then I was exposed to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the first time. Beautiful, beautiful martial art. So beautiful as philosophy. And then Veronica, for example, introduced me to aero yoga, which was like a complete different experience I never had. I've been doing yoga, but then in the air, it's a different sense of freedom. There was just a lot of that. At the same time, all these new young people were exposed to Web3, crypto, and different industries with medicine, biology, space technology, and all that. They got more interested in joining these technology, and they're like, I really want a job here. Is there anything I can do? Can I get an internship? Because they are in first contact with people who are really in the field building and towards a positive impact for not just themselves, but also the rest of the world or their communities. And these are really, I would say, nutritious lessons for people who are exploring their future possibilities, especially for young people. And so this is my experience, and probably completely different from many other people that are also from Zuzalu. They had different way of interacting with the community. I was burnt out because it was just too much social, too much. It's a small village, and then you run into people that you need to talk to or you want to talk to every 10 meters. So the breakfast never ends really at 12. It's all going beyond 2 p.m. and then you are still talking. And every week, because there are new people dropping by or coming to stay longer. And every week there are people who refuse to go and they want longer time to be there, but the facilities were just that much. I would say it came as a huge surprise to me as well that it had left me with a lot of positive, I would say, source of energy and conviction to continue what we have been doing. And then with Zuzalu.city being handed to us to coordinate the efforts of building, it became even more so like something that the team. And then we also then went to different duration but different forms of Zuzalu events. All of them, new or old to crypto, all reflect that they're able to find people they like, many people that they like, and that they would want to continue to go. Not because of the team political correctness, because a lot of them we found during the Zoo Village events, the Zuzalu events. Our tech lead actually was, I met him in ZooConnect. So it's this kind of a magnet that bring in people that you don't feel like it's just another conference attender, like you feel that you might have a future together or something. That's too romantic a way to say it, but that as a result was like that. Veronica now has been contributing to Zuzalu.city, and then probably will officially join in a more like a fuller capacity. Was also Montenegro Zuzalu finding, let's put it this way. Right. And I was able to find so many people that I'm probably with limited capacity cannot work directly with, but for sure we will cross paths when we are building towards the same thing that want positive results for I wouldn't say more common people, but really for people who do not have so many privileges to start with, and then have an opportunity to become more influential and contributive to the world. And it just gives you the sense of this noble cause, and then every day is filled a bit more with both desperation of really wanting to get there faster, but at the same time knowing that a lot of people are struggling with you as well. That you are not the only one who's worried about the world, and or trying to do something towards improving. And when the community really gets big, you do feel that this is the right place to be, and then you want this to be everywhere. If you're a nomad, if you also want to know people from very different cultures that share the very fundamental principles, but trying different ways to do it. And then, is there any way you could help? And software is our answer, obviously, because we're good at it and then know very well about it, and potentially it can scale the ideas.
Right. Yeah, it's really motivating to have around all these people from frontiers of all of these different technologies.
When Zuitzerland would happen, I think next year or something, there will be many different tracks, and then it's really. I think I learned a lot about longevity. I wouldn't say I was converted, because for Chinese we're like all our emperors wanted to live forever, so we're exposed to the idea for thousands of years about living forever without let's say religious guilt of but I was exposed to the idea that many people actually have an objection and have different ideas, and there are practical reasons that so the discussion also for me intellectually it's a really great thing. Of course, and that also leads to potentially a healthier lifestyle, I would say, and at least it's on the way to be there. I mean, when breakfast is really just longevity design, then that's a place where you get your early morning nutrition. You are inevitably becoming a bit more healthy than, I don't know, like having heavy meat-based noodle, as I would go default.
Right. Yeah, even in just that field alone, there are so many different technologies or applications, like from nutrition and exercise to crazy supplements, whatever. And I also want to say what you mentioned previously, like a lot of people I heard mention this specific example of like meeting their future co-founders and colleagues.
Yes, that's definitely the case.
Super cool.
In my case, because our organization is quite established and it has a long-term mission that I'm determined to deliver. It's difficult to find co-founder, but a lot of the projects I want people to build, they already exist. They were not known, or they are very easily picking on the ideas to really jump on it, to become the founders for these projects to facilitate our shared goals. Or generally, they're just good people that you don't mind playing a drinking game with, and in itself, it's already a big improvement. There is a anonymous poll that I think towards the end that the organizers put, and a lot of people showed up to zero knowledge vote for it. I forgot the exact questions. I could dig it up, but essentially, have you made connections you otherwise would have not been able to make? Have you felt you're physically feeling better or healthier? And then there is also do you feel you're more motivated to make positive impacts? Then there is like 5 degree, like strongly agree and mostly agree and then object and stuff like that. And all these questions were answered with 90% at least agree. And that is rare. There are people who, it's really difficult to go bad, go rogue and just want to pump and dump when you are exposed to this. And then you feel your time, your life is spent with more quality. Not only the goal I guess this is my personal philosophy, we will get there. Like, of course we want it to be sooner in our lifetime, but it also matters much more who we are and what we're doing and who we are doing it with. And if you find the right companions, the journey itself is already very beautiful. I feel like I'm a happy, satisfied, lucky person because of that, because benefiting so much from strong quality community. And I would never believe, if you dial back to last year before Zuzalu, I would say these words. But it was, that I would become such a promoter. And I don't even know what I'm exactly promoting, because do we need exactly the same group of people? I don't think so. I'm here, and I was in Zuzalu, Georgia. There was the same vibe. So what exactly gave rise to this kind of community is still something that I guess still is a magical thing that I cannot really make a formula to. Yeah, but we can only repeat and then try to form it better and better, and then figure out how this can be replicated and scaled much better.
Yeah, there are more and more of them popping up.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you also, like, with the platform that you're building, you mentioned privacy, like it's a big part of it. And I wanted to ask you, like, between these sort of solar punk visions of building an optimistic and bright future, and then there's more like privacy focused, defensive accelerationism, lunar punk side of things. How do you think we should balance it, and why is that like private side also important?
There are different ways of interpreting different approaches, and then maybe different people would see different things. People like Burns, for example, would see it in a much more defensive way. I see a much more proactive way, and I see very, very bright future with it. And but I think what we need to stand is neutrality. We should not impose standards to how communities should interact with tools. The interoperability with Web3 tools, of course, would be our bias, or at least my personal bias, or people who are behind the Zuzalu.city's bias, because with good reason of that these alternatives just don't exist. When they exist and then people still choose whatever they want to choose, then it's a point for us to say, let's nudge them a little bit further to our end if we still believe this is the right way for them to go. However, if the choices are made by the communities, then it speaks for itself, at least for that point. And for feasibility and resource maximization, optimization, we should go with interoperable tools that are more privacy concerned. And with the more private part, it's again still down to whether these communities would like to have those features. If they don't, they can very well use a Web2 tool. And also using us, you can publish all data if you want. Or you allow anybody to join, and then everybody can see. Whenever someone does want to see your event sessions, they just join in and get assigned with an NFT. And they're also very happy. Maybe potentially this NFT will become something in the future as well. So you have more means to benefit the community yourself, and while you maintain the choice whether or not you want to be completely private. The challenge is if you do want to be private and own your data, that doesn't exist. So we need to put our efforts more to that. However, be very much cautious about whether we are imposing. For example, there was a time limit to session that was made by our designer, that each session has to be more than 30 minutes. I think that was potentially a bug. I'm actually not sure, so don't blame me if you see this. But at one point when there was a track that wanted to do every speech 20 minutes, they were not able to do. And this bias, for me, with the experience of Zuzalu, is actually not wrong. I mean, I would say this is a really good way to do a Zuzalu, let's say. Because when it's a 20-minute thing, then you're just making a speech. You're just lecturing people.
Right.
When it's longer, there is at least some Q&A. I experienced with giving an ECF presentation within an hour, and it was fantastic. There was a storm, and nobody showed up. There was only like 20 people in the event place, but I talked to the right people that were determined to really have this discussion or learn about what ECF does. And in the end, the conversations became very interesting. They were able to ask questions that I couldn't put on slides because they were too deep or too detailed, but they are interested in saying it. And it was an hour. And I was like, that's really an amazing experience. However, you should let the community configure themselves. It could be there is a session that is only 5 minutes, a dance or something. You have no idea. So as open as we need to be, we also need to provide all these options for communities to try out themselves. I think at one point we might, for example, in the App Store, that is like Apple recommend you this, right? Like the high, safer projects, whatnot. We should have a stance, because in the end, you're one of the interfaces that are, channeling people towards the apps. Then we can have a stance, we can have a color, we can have our own thing, and then that might be that we will list and rank projects that are more cypherpunk higher, but it should not be the case that we say we delist all these other projects. And if Google is willing to pay us $1 billion to get Google signing, I'm very open to it. Contact me. I'm QJ ECF on Twitter, and but and then that channels into other projects as well. Everything grows, and then people just want to Google login, and then you give them an NFT. Then you make them go through smart contract lottery, and then they would have to have a wallet if they are interested in doing it. So a part of the Zuzalu thing is also there is no compulsory program in a way, that you don't have to attend certain things for you to become an attendant. It's very self-organized and very, let's say, option-based. I wouldn't say freedom-based, but you came here by yourself, and then you wanted to do what you wanted to do. And then so if people don't want to use it, it's their choice. And then organizers might install different things. Also, there is a scalability point to the software itself that I forgot to add, which is now it's like the organizers owning the entire space. Of course, with more iteration, it will be whatever governing body that your community introduces will replace a super admin key of the organizer. So it becomes that, let's say, the multi-sig of the entire community would decide which apps to install, what advertisement can go on our site. Could it be porn, or can it be gambling or casino, that kind of stuff, whether you want to delist these things. That can be all down to voting or ways that are determined by the community. That means we need to integrate with voting, polling, like different multi-sig wallet tools, and potentially also wallet, because this wallet in the sense of managing your own identity without us accessing it. So you have to manage on your side. Maybe I want to be called QJ here, but I want to be called JQ somewhere else, and this is my choice. And I'm known as a social person, not by my passport. So my friends are not having issue with it. We should be judged by what we do for that context, and not by our. That's my personal opinion. And but I can manage all of these identities very, very safely locally within my own data, or not necessarily locally in a cloud, encrypted cloud blockchain, but encrypted. And these are things that are by themselves a quite complicated project that requires more teams to come in and really focus on doing it with us collaborating or going with their own, and maybe communities need. And these are all modules that can swap. Right now it doesn't seem so because there's only scheduling, but all the tabs that you see on Zuzalu.city are just a tool that you open, and then if you open other tools, there's admin panels, and then they can all just follow. So the design leaves a lot of space to the scalability and then your own organization for the future. I don't know when we'll get there, but I hope it will be, at least by the end of this year, we would have more tools that the organizers can play with. And it's not only pop-up villages. If I'm an online community, I need my social space as well. I need a space that I can moderate, like our community members can moderate. I can of course go with discuss and then discourse. However, it's still centralized. And are people allowed to privately use a way to verify their credential without having to give you an email? Because some people know how to do a Proton email or like private email, but still you have to register somewhere, and it's not so easy for average users to get an email address that helps you keep your privacy very well.
Right.
Let's put it this way. And then, so you probably need your phone number, and then it's all linked together, the data. You have no idea how it's done, GDPR, whatever, data regulations in different countries still relying on a third party to execute. I would like to just know that it's not in your pocket, versus I have to trust you to do a good job. And then I have no ways to punish you. That goes back to the point of why blockchain or decentralization itself is good, or is a good alternative to a lot of the problems we have.
Right, yeah, giving users the option and owning their own data.
And to swap back is also important. Once I become public, if it's irreversible, this is actually a huge challenge that Web 2 projects don't have, because once you publish and then you're like, no, delete, right, it's gone, and you think it's gone. The public doesn't know. They screenshot, but we're not, and the server still has it until they say they clean the data every 3 months, which they don't.
Maybe they did, but you just can't
Actually,
know.
I can prove that sometimes they didn't.
Yeah.
Like they closed my accounts, and I'm like, can I just pay the due bill and then get my account back? Because I found a bug actually. I couldn't register with the same email. After they delete the email, then the account, then for sure they still have my account, right? And I was like, in this case, can I just have it back? I'm willing to pay more for it, because I forgot a cycle of a payment. And then they're like, yes, we haven't deleted it. They actually confirmed in email contact. In my case, I'm very happy that they didn't, but this is a happy accident, and it's still not provable. It's not auditable.
Wanted to ask you also about Zuitzerland specifically. Like how do you think it will be different from previous Zuzalu events, or what do you think? What do you hope we can achieve with this event?
I have to say that I'm probably, because I arrived 2 days ago and I had a good experience with a hackathon, with the discussions with different pitch projects, but I have not really experienced the community in a sense of in a daily activities and what kind of sessions, and I haven't got an opportunity to talk in depth with everyone, which didn't happen anyway in Montenegro. It's like 200 people and then 1,000 people pass by. So many people who claim to be there, I'm not sure whether they were there. If they were there, I wasn't able to really connect with them or even chat briefly. So I don't know the current build very, very well. But for the very few people that I did come in contact with, I feel Zuitzerland is very principle aligned with the Zuzalu.city and the original spirit of Zuzalu. And I like very much that it will be a Swiss flavor, in the sense of Switzerland itself might be one of the countries that, one of the few countries that is the closest to the idea of Web3 and decentralization. And I also have high hopes for Europe, because Europe generally can be considered as a decentralized big kingdom, or former big kingdom, decentralized, and in terms of philosophy or values, there I found it might be taken up pretty fast here with the people in who have that history in their culture, let's say. And I like Switzerland as a country myself, with all the nature. So my hope, I guess this is not really valuable feedback in the sense of saying what's going to be intellectually different. But because of knowing just, like I got to know Isla during Zoo Village, Georgia, and Wuna I met in ZooConnect, another, like the Zuzalu self-made prophecy kind of situation. And I found them very serious and committed to making it happen. And with the more in-depth conversations, actually more like Burns and Isla were having, that I was more listening and then learning what the idea was, I find it potentially becoming one of the very important hubs for the so you don't necessarily have to be a pop-up village if you can be more of a place people know that they can drop by, and then you become a hub that people would that every now and then have maybe living or different activities, but it's somewhere that you can go to when you want to find such people. And that's a comforting thing, because everybody now is like waiting in the air, what's going to happen when, versus when you have a local place, and that kind of more grounded sense of security is still needed. I don't know what, let's say, in other countries where would be a potential hub that can be stable and then offering that. There's quite a few that are very, very promising, that are trying but for sure, Switzerland is one of them that can be this case. And I also see more and more opening up to things that are more than token, that I feel very positive to myself as a signal.
Right. Yeah, and especially if the next gen village pans out, you didn't get to see it,
Yeah, I
unfortunately,
didn't get to see, yeah.
but it's a crazy location. I wanted to ask you about the Ethereum Community Fund. Like, what kind of projects does it fund?
We actually started out in 2018 as a grant program that funded projects, and I'm using past tense here because that when it was founded more by many projects in the general Ethereum community, so across different networks, including Ethereum itself. And there was a lot of coordination challenges that we, let's say, experienced and researched about. And then very soon into the job of being the executive director, I was able to convince a lot of the member projects to start to create a decentralized granting platform instead of having to pool the funds together. And it's not to say that the institutions shouldn't be incubating and then creating a better ecosystem with their funds, but to say that everyone should have this opportunity to look and then give the opinion and then help evaluate. Very similar to the projects that yesterday Zukaya presented, and say, where is the crowd wisdom in all of this, when you still go back to you being a fund and having to justify your decision. And for me, it was like obligation and liabilities I really didn't want. The commitment was millions of dollars from different networks, and then I am sitting in a position of saying that I know which projects are worthy of being funded. As a person, I think I should, but deciding for someone else, it's not necessarily I wouldn't say I'm who is the best expert to do that. So there was through a lot of discussions and talking internally in a team, the decision was that we need to swap into making things happen themselves versus having to sit on hot money and then making it just going back to the old world. And so we are no longer actively financing projects, but more like incubating and through experience giving guidance. That might change after the platform is launched. And that was 2018, and now it's already 2024. So all of these years, what we have been doing is research with the realization that it's not because direct funding platform doesn't exist, because Bitcoin already started. You can give someone money directly once they give you an address. The more difficult thing is to decide what is a good thing to collectively reach a general vague consensus on what is good that we need to give resources to. And then we realize even before that, more importantly, you have to know what is true. Because are we going to be the due diligence institution when people are giving funding? What is the information listed on the website? Is it updated timely? Do they really deliver what they want, what they say they would deliver? In a lot of the community involved funded projects, meaning in form of IEO and ICOs, investors actually have no visibility at all, and let alone control of how the projects can proceed. There's no accountability. So the past years we're realizing that we need to start with what is true and then what is good, and then going into how. The how part now is kind of captured by Zuzalu.city. So originally we had this roadmap of working out how to decentralize information collection or intelligence collection that would first be about finding accountable Web3 projects. And then the funding would come by itself. If good projects do not have to struggle with, I only have $50,000 left, do I continue to build, or I market and pump the token, 50,000 won for pump the token, but just like outright issue a token, or buy some ad, or go to an event and make a booth. They might be more tempted to do the building part when there is a place that uphold what they are trying to do. This is what we think. So we are combining the what is good and what is true into the new ECF platform that we hope that will come out this year as well. essentially it's a decentralized knowledge base. Decentralized in the sense of nobody says what is true. Nobody can say this is the final truth. And then collective wisdom come into the place. And the mechanism is called Pensieve. The white paper is already out if you're interested.
Did you say Pensieve?
Pensieve, it's a Harry Potter
Oh,
reference.
yeah.
And yes, and then so I'm a fan, and then now they are forced to become a fan when I code name different things. And the idea is let's collectively look at the memories together and make sense out of what is true and what is good. Then the means come, the resources come when you can promote in the right way or educate investors or funders what are good and accountable projects. Then you also protect the mass market out there that are, with every generation, being exploited by more experienced investors.
Right.
And then the technology gets to be out there faster. So we in the far west now, and we lack such mechanism to protect because it's essentially really compliance or execution resistant to the traditional legal framework. So what's left is only creating better, arm people with knowledge, at least for a start. And that is kind of missing. You see different educational, let's say, efforts, but they're not directed to the activities that people are focusing on, which very much centers the investment, not only with the money but time, and then your energy with putting your mind into different projects. After several years, you realize they're actually not what you thought they are, and it's a waste of life as well. So how do we direct the community? And then we might still put together a fund, but without that, it's going to be still a unscalable manual work, and also not helping different grant programs to scout their projects, which was supposed to be which has been our mission, because we started out with supporting different communities together. So these are I start with one of the things one of the two things. Now I mentioned both things. And the ECF tries to solve what is good and what is true, and then Zuzalu solves the how. And but we don't have to impose what is good and how to any of the tools tool users, and they can figure it themselves out. While the tool of the ECF of what is how and good, how to piece the consensus together, can also be a tool that can be used by different communities. I'm going very abstract now, but it's like clear picture in my head because I've done the presentations before a few times. Right. Anyway, I'm looking forward to Zuitzerland next year. That's it.